Part 109. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1085. I felt a headache. She sat down in front of Zainan and told him, 5 years, this is the plea agreement given by the prosecution. 5 years, Zainan's body shook, seemingly unbelievable. I have never done anything, they want to imprison me for 5 years. The evidence is against you, and you were the one who testified personally. I sighed again, Zainan, although I really want to help you, but in this situation, I think the risk of appearing in court may be greater. Zainan was stunned, and looked at I blankly. So, you suggest that I accept the agreement, 5 years. I pursed her lips and said, I'll go talk to him again and try to reduce it to 4 years. No, Zainan was suddenly excited, his face flushed, I don't plead guilty. I never touched her. Zainan, calm down. I frowned and said, this is just a prosecution and defense transaction. As a lawyer, I have the obligation to tell you the conditions of the prosecution and the risks of appearing in court. You should think about it carefully before let me decide. No. It's nothing to think about. Zainan bit his lip and murmured, shaking his head, I will never admit what I haven't done. I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly, okay, we're going to go to court, I'll talk to the policeman who arrested you first. She got up to leave. Zainan called to stop her, do you believe me? I stood by the door and looked at him, feeling tangled and conflicted in his heart. After a long silence, he said, I believe in you, Zainan. Zainan breathed a sigh of relief, and said to her again, I swear, everything I said is true, and I didn't touch her. I nodded and left the meeting room. She found the police officer and had a general understanding of the case, and her heart was even heavier. Emotionally, she tends to trust Zainan, but, in the face of testimony and evidence, this trust is too difficult. As the night was dark, I left the police station and returned home with a heavy heart. The light in the bedroom was on, and the light and shadow came through the half-closed door, reflecting a layer of warm golden light on the floor. She was stunned for a moment, and soon realized that it was Cheng who had returned. A smile immediately appeared on I's face, and he walked briskly into the bedroom, and sure enough, he saw Cheng sitting on the edge of the bed with an impatient expression on his face. Ma'am, is it appropriate to come home so late? Cheng looked at her gloomily, without a smile on his face. I was not afraid of him at all. She leaned over with a smile, put her arms around his neck, and kissed him on the lips again. What time is it? She asked with a smile, when did you arrive? Cheng snorted coldly, at 10 o'clock, I've been waiting for you for an hour. The implication is that he will be back at 9 o'clock. I silently calculated the time in her mind, counting all the time on the road and on the plane. Cheng set off from Zionghai City at about 5 or 6 o'clock, probably not in time for dinner. Have you had dinner yet? I hung on his body, swaying coquettishly, I'm so hungry, eat some with me. Cheng squinted at her, and said coldly, come back so late, haven't you eaten? I'm going out to meet a classmate. Male classmate or female classmate? I hesitated for a while, male classmate. Suddenly, the world turned around. In the next instant, she was already under Cheng's pressure. Cheng gritted his back molars, it seems that when I'm not around, you've been quite naughty. I opened his mouth to explain, but looking at Cheng's distraught face, he somehow wanted to tease him. Get up, she pretended to be unwell, what should I do if I press the baby? Cheng froze suddenly, his expression cracked instantly. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1086. The room was silent. Murong Cheng stared at Mu Zi in a daze, his whole body seemed to be petrified, motionless. Mu Zi originally just wanted to tease him, but when she saw this reaction, she couldn't help but feel guilty. She turned her face slightly uncomfortably, and said awkwardly, "I'm just joking." The stagnant air finally loosened because of her words. Murong Cheng raised his body, lay down next to her, put his palm on her abdomen naturally, and asked, "When did you know?" Mu Zi twisted her body in embarrassment. "I was really just joking." "Are you kidding me?" Murong Cheng stared at her distrustfully. "Have you had your period this month?" "No, but it's coming soon." Mu Zi said softly, "It's about 2 days." Both fell silent. Mu Zi was too guilty to make a sound, while Murong Cheng looked suspiciously at the change in her expression. After a while, Mu Zi couldn't stand him staring at her like this, turned her back to him, and muttered, "Even if you stare at me like this, I can't make a child." Murong Cheng thought about it, got up and opened the drawer of the bedside cabinet, took out a box of pregnancy test sticks, and pushed Mu Zi. "Go check it out," he said. In order to make him give up, Mu Zi had no choice but to go. She felt that it was impossible, because she had just tested it not long ago, and the time interval was so short this time. I'm afraid the result would not change much. After the inspection, Mu Zi saw a red line on it and felt calm. Apart from being calm, I was also a little bit lost. Pregnancy is so hard. Thinking of Murong Cheng, who was still waiting for news outside, she couldn't help but feel that she was embarrassed, that she really shouldn't have made that kind of joke, let him down for nothing. Opening the door, Murong Cheng was indeed watching eagerly outside. As soon as he saw Mu Zi come out, he stared at the pregnancy test stick in her hand with burning eyes. Mu Zi felt the pressure more and more, handed him the result, and murmured, "No." Murong Cheng raised his eyebrows, and took the pregnancy test stick to check, with an extremely serious expression. After watching for a while, he turned on the desk lamp again, and observed carefully under the strong light. Mu Zi felt even more embarrassed, her cheeks became hot. "Don't look. No matter how you look at it, it is impossible to become 2 bars. But Murong Cheng stared at it for a full 2 minutes. "Zizi, you are pregnant," Murong Cheng said. There was no joy or shock in the tone, and he said a sentence without any emotion. Or maybe he hasn't adjusted his mood yet, and he doesn't know what tone to use to express the sentence. Mu Zi felt that Murong Cheng was taking revenge on her. Just because she made a very low-level joke just now, he is also here to deceive himself now. What a cheapskate, don't suffer at all. Mu Zi slandered in her heart, showing a surprised expression on her face, and then smiled. "Okay, we're even now, don't be angry." Murong Cheng's gaze finally moved away from the pregnancy test stick, and turned to look at Mu Zi. "2 horizontal lines mean you're pregnant, right?" "There are really 2, Mu Zi also leaned over to look, and there was a bright red line in the display area, and a very pale pink horizontal line. Could it be a quality problem? Mu Zi frowned, wondering if the pregnancy test stick was inaccurate. Murong Cheng asked her, "Try again." Mu Zi was also a little eager to try. After unwrapping the wrapping paper of the pregnancy test stick, she found it difficult again. I don't have that." "So embarrassing, pregnancy test, needs to pee." Murong Cheng immediately went to pour water for her. Mu Zi bit the bullet and drank more than half of the cup. Then the two sat on the bed stupidly, waiting for Mu Zi's bladder to send a signal. Happily, there has never been. When Murong Cheng poured more water, Mu Zi shook his head in pain. "No, I really can't drink it anymore." He was very anxious, wishing to confirm the result immediately, but seeing Mu Zi's appearance felt distressed. "Stop drinking, let's go to the hospital tomorrow." Murong Cheng hugged her, gently stroking her soft belly, feeling very strange. "I must be pregnant." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1087. The next day, Cheng took Mu Zi to the hospital and it was confirmed that she was pregnant. It's just because the days are short, probably less than 2 weeks, so the marks on the pregnancy test stick are very shallow. When the couple walked out of the hospital, looking at the blue sky and white clouds outside, they were a little dazed, as if they didn't know what to do next. The bodyguard opened the car door for them, and the two sat in the car one after the other, with solemn expressions, without saying a word. The driver in front couldn't help but take a second look, thinking, is there any serious illness found in the inspection? Mu Zi was in panic. There is something extra in my stomach, and I feel that my whole person seems to be different, but I can't tell what the specific difference is. I can't feel the excitement of becoming a mother for the time being, anyway, it's weird. Turning to look at Cheng again, it seems that he is not much better than her. Cheng Mu Zi asked him hesitantly, do you know how to raise children? Cheng looked back at her, what do you think? It's the first time for both of them, and they have no masters. If you want to talk about joy, you are indeed happy, but the joy came suddenly, but you are a little overwhelmed and unprepared. Cheng took out his mobile phone and called Wang Zhan, look up the recent fundraising projects, allocate funds from my private account, and donate some to each project. If doing good deeds can really make up for evil, he is glad that he has a lot of money to do good deeds. Wang Zhan knew that Cheng had become addicted to doing charity work recently, so he was not surprised, and asked, how much is the appropriation? 2 billion, Cheng said. Wang Zhan's heart trembled suddenly, his throat seemed to be pinched. Master. What's wrong with you? Cheng's voice was cold and hard, I'm happy. Wang Zhan's heart trembled even more. Is this a happy tone? Why does it sound so sinister? When Cheng ended the call, Mu Zi couldn't help asking him, do we have that much money? Cheng stared at her stomach, yes. What about getting pregnant next time? Mu Zi was curious, if she donated 2 billion each time, would she go bankrupt? Cheng's gaze finally moved away from her stomach and landed on her face, don't worry, it's enough for you to give birth at least 10 times. Mu Zi silently covered her poor belly. 10 times, then she would really be a pig. After returning home, after a long journey in the car, Cheng's tense mood finally returned to normal. He made many phone calls in a row, including childcare teachers, nutritionists, doctors, etc., and took notes carefully while making calls. Mu Zi felt that everyone worked so hard, she should also be aware of it, so she turned on her mobile phone and checked the precautions during pregnancy online. Just after reading a few words, the phone was taken away. There is radiation, Cheng said. Mu Zi. This is where you start to get into character? Then, you can't use your mobile phone anymore, Mu Zi asked hesitantly. Cheng said, wait until the radiation protection suits are delivered. Then I took the list I wrote down to find Aunt Jean, all of which were dietary taboos for pregnant women. Ginseng and longan were all eliminated, coffee and alcoholic beverages were all forbidden, and there were also precautions such as fried eggs and fried steak must be cooked through. Mu Zi sat on the sofa, silently thinking about other taboos. It seems that apart from fried eggs making her a little bit disappointed, other taboos don't matter, anyway. She doesn't usually like to eat those foods. But she prefers half-cooked fried eggs, the yolk can be poked, and a golden liquid will flow out. How do you eat the fully cooked ones? When Cheng came back, he saw Mu Zi sitting in a daze, and asked her, are you sleepy? I heard that pregnant women are prone to drowsiness. Mu Zi shook her head, expressing that she was quite energetic. Murong Cheng pondered for a moment, then asked again, "Do you want to vomit?" Muzi still shook her head. Murong Cheng felt that the knowledge he had just absorbed had nowhere to use it. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1088. The experience of being a parent is new. Especially for Murong Cheng, it not only welcomes a new little life, but also indicates that Muzi will truly become a person. There is no need to go to great lengths to set up the 5 yin formations, and there is no need to worry about her sudden departure. It is just the last step, the last 10 months. The first 3 months of pregnancy are the most dangerous, and Murong Cheng temporarily stopped all work at hand. He was originally preparing for this year's mayoral election, but now he can't take care of it. He just ordered his subordinates to canvass for votes, while he himself has to stay in Jingling to accompany Muzi. Although people are not there, the sense of presence is not diminished at all. The next day, it hit the headlines, Murong Cheng donated 30 million to endangered birds. Why not 2 billion? Because there are too many fundraising projects in every region of the country. Endangered animals need to be protected, roads need to be built in impoverished mountainous areas, there are also children who are out of school, widowed elderly, and countless people in need of help in the world. Wang Zhan has to choose carefully, looking for the one that can highlight the most achievements, at least the money can be heard well. The proper allocation of 2 billion can ensure that Murong Cheng will stay on the headlines for a month. As more and more money was donated, Murong Cheng's popularity gradually increased. Competitors are angry. What about fair competition? What is the difference between you and spending money to buy voters? Murong Cheng's team ignored them and continued throwing money, money, money. People turn on the news every day and only care about one thing: how much did Murong Cheng donate today? Sidu Yan looked at those numbers and panicked. How can there be such an election? It's so rough. He called Murong Cheng. Using donations to attract the public's attention is a good strategy, but it still needs to be appropriate and tactful. To spend so much money, it's better for you to show your face once to show your sincerity and do it yourself. Best policy. Sidu Yan said a lot with good intentions, but there was no response, but some chattering noises. Hello, Sidu Yan couldn't help asking, where are you? After a while, Murong Cheng replied, in the orphanage. Let them figure out the election. I don't have time recently. After finishing speaking, he hung up the phone. Sidu Yan was half dead with anger. Murong Cheng and Muzi went to the orphanage together, and discussed with the director whether they could reschedule their work if they were pregnant. He definitely can't run around with the children anymore, even playing games. If the child bumps into Muzi badly or seriously, the matter can be big or small. The dean was very kind and said that it would be enough to teach the children some math and pinyin. Muzi thought for a while and asked, how about, I'll go to the small class to help. The children in the small class are all under 3 years old, and some are only a few months old. They need to be hugged, coaxed, and milk powdered. If Muzi wants to learn how to take care of infants and young children, it is undoubtedly the most suitable place to go there. The dean immediately understood what Muzi meant, and said with a smile, all right, let's practice in advance. Muzi smiled a little embarrassedly. There are 2 nursery ants in the small class. Muzi followed the nursing ant, learning how to hold the baby and how to change diapers. The baby is soft and light, but it is tiring to hold it in her arms for a long time. The baby started to cry and fuss one after another, and could make people around, which made Muzi deeply feel the hard work of taking care of the auntie. Before I knew it, it was evening, and it was time for the children to eat. Muzi walked out the door and saw Murong Cheng leading a few older children doing exercises on the playground. I have to admit that Murong Cheng is a better teacher than her, and he has a good posture. Maybe it is rare to meet a male teacher, and the children's cooperation is also very high. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1089. On the playground, Cheng was sweating profusely, and simply took off his coat. He was wearing a dark vest underneath, revealing his strong arms. Standing among the children, he looked extremely tall and straight. The children ran past him and rushed to the cafeteria. A 5 or 6-year-old girl accidentally fell down and fell behind. Cheng picked her up, took another younger child, and went to the cafeteria together. In the golden sunset, the backs of the three of them merged together, warm and moving, but Cheng's face was already blurred, but for some reason, I felt that he was more handsome and resolute than usual, with an indomitable and extraordinary heroism. I took out her phone and took a picture, thinking, so handsome. While the children were eating, I and Cheng left the orphanage. On the way back, I showed Cheng the photos he took, and Cheng nodded, it's a good shot. After changing hands, I sent it to Wang Zhan. I was stunned, why send it to him? Your father said that it is the best policy to do it yourself, and charity without showing your face is insincere in the eyes of the public. Cheng said lazily, I will ask Wang Zhan to post it on a news website. I was dumbfounded for a moment. What a warm and beautiful thing, but he just made it tacky with a few words. However, the cheesy Cheng is also cute, and I couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. Cheng sent the photo, and returned the phone to I can accompany you at the orphanage, and the school doesn't have too much homework, and now only your classmate's case is left, what do you plan to do? I was slightly startled, what plan? Cheng frowned, and raised his hand to pinch I's chin, don't you plan to hand it over to another lawyer? Zi, you are pregnant with my child and running around for other men every day, isn't it appropriate? I chuckled, and slapped his hand away, that's not another man, that's my classmate, the trial date has already been scheduled, and changing lawyers temporarily will cause the judge's disgust. After finishing speaking, she sighed softly again, besides, Zainan's case is very difficult, I don't feel relieved to hand it over to others. In Zainan's case, the most crucial point is that the victim personally identified him. If the police can't find other suspects before the trial day, I can only hope that the other party's testimony can be loosened during cross-examination, and there is no other way. Don't worry, I won't run around. I held Cheng's face and kissed him, coaxing him softly, I'm just going to court, I won't be tired. Cheng frowned slightly, and looked at her, Zizi, it's not easy to fight a lawsuit related to adultery. I was silent for a while. She understood what Cheng meant. It's not easy to fight, not because she is technically difficult to fight, nor is she questioning that she will lose the lawsuit, but because she is worried that Muse's reputation will be damaged. Because in court, I will inevitably question the victim, and during the questioning process, it is inevitable that the criminal process will be mentioned, and even more detailed questions will be asked. When the victim suffered a lot and finally plucked up the courage to stand up in court to accuse the prisoner, he was questioned, suppressed, and even verbally tortured by the opposing lawyer, like an unhealed sore being torn apart bloody again. This practice of the lawyer is undoubtedly a secondary rape of the victim. Also disgusting behavior. But if I avoided key questions, or gave up asking, it would be tantamount to giving up the entire lawsuit. In that case, how can Zainan defend his injustice? I sighed lightly, I have to think of a way, if I can find a personality witness. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1090. Although Murong Chen was quite dissatisfied, Mu Ziyi insisted on defending Zainan. Not for anything else, just because Zainan was the first to call her after the accident. It can be seen that he pinned all his hopes on Mu Ziyi, and it would be too cruel to ignore her. Mu Ziyi wanted to find a personality witness for Zainan, so that what she said in court would be more convincing. After arriving at school on Monday, she asked a few classmates to find out about it, but she was disappointed that none of them were willing to testify for Zainan. The reason is unfamiliarity. This surprised Mu Ziyi. She thought Zainan was very popular in the class. He always buys water for this one, or prints notes for that one, and the girls occasionally joke with him. Zainan is very popular in the class compared to the aloof Muzi. Mu Ziyi couldn't help calling a female classmate to stop, and asked, "Ziokan, didn't you say that Zainan is simple and honest last time? You also said that he is cute and suitable to play Santa Claus. But you know people, you know your face, you don't know your heart," the female classmate said, "and no matter how honest he is still a man. He is a man in his 30s, and he doesn't have a girlfriend around him. Who knows if he will be a psychopath? What? This is really ugly. Not only is it ugly, but it also reveals a condescending disdain." Mu Ziyi's face became ugly. Seeing her displeased, the girl hurriedly said, "I'm not talking nonsense. If you don't believe me, you can ask Li Hao. They have a group for boys, and Zainan often shares that kind of film in the group." Mu Ziyi suddenly felt very powerless, and lost the interest to continue the chat. She believes that Zainan is not the only one sharing resources in the group. Because Zainan is a typical character of following the crowd, he does everything to fit into a certain group. If he shares it, it must have been shared by someone else, or it was someone else asking for resources at all. It's okay, most men keep such things privately, it has nothing to do with morality. But it's strange, if a man is handsome, women usually think it's normal, but if the man is ugly and fat, women will think the man is obscene, even perverted. Knowing that her classmates were prejudiced against Zainan, Mu Ziyi didn't count on it. After class, she went to the school library to look through the cases related to sexual assault, hoping to find a breakthrough. While searching for information, I met Liao Likan. Mu Ziyi was slightly taken aback. It stands to reason that the other party is his teacher, so he should say hello to show politeness, but considering Liao Likan's dislike for her, Mu Ziyi was not sure whether to go over and disturb her. Unexpectedly, when Liao Likan saw her, she greeted her first, "Come to check the information." Mu Ziyi nodded, "Well, come and investigate the case." Liao Likan asked her, "I heard that you are looking for a personality witness for Zainan." Zainan's incident was a big one, and the police officers came to the school to find out about the situation, so it's not surprising that Liao Likan knew about it. Mu Ziyi didn't hide anything, and said truthfully, "Zainan is introverted, has few friends, and his classmates are not familiar with him, and no one is willing to testify for him." After hearing this, Liao Likan said calmly, "I can testify for him in court." Mu Ziyi was very surprised, and opened her eyes slightly. "Mr. Liao, do you trust Zainan?" The so-called personality witness is based on the past behavior of the defendant, to issue a moral guarantee testimony for the defendant. Such testimony is generally excluded at the conviction stage so as not to mislead the jury, but it can be used to refute all statements by the other side that question the defendant's character. Therefore, a personality witness must have a close relationship with the defendant and know the defendant well before he is qualified to vouch for his character. But in Mu Ziyi's impression, Liao Likan has always been harsh to Zainan. Why would she want to testify for Zainan? Liao Likan said indifferently, "I have taught him and know his character. Although he is not good at schoolwork, he is actually very smart, cautious, knows how to seek good luck and avoid harm, and will never violate the criminal law for a moment's pleasure. The words paused, Liao Liqin smiled lightly, and continued, even if he really wants to commit a crime, he will plan it carefully. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1091. The meaning in Liao Liqin's words was obviously not because she believed in Zainan's character, and then believed that he did not commit a crime. Rather, she felt that with Zainan's personality, once he committed a crime, he should be a cautious criminal, not an impulsive one. The police said that before the incident, the victim had insulted Zainan on the subway. Zainan might have held a grudge and followed the other party to wait for an opportunity to retaliate. If we testify against him in terms of character, the prosecution may use the mentality of continuing to suppress and lose control. Point of view against us. Liao Liqin thought for a while, sat down beside Mu Zi, and asked, where is the victim? What kind of person? 23 years old, Shibaiki, an extra in the repertory troupe, came home after rehearsal at night, and happened to be on the same subway as Zainan. Mu Zi handed over the information to Liao Liqin. Someone was willing to help Zainan, and Mu Zi was happy to have one more help. The subway was very crowded. Shibaiki had physical contact with Zainan. On the subway, she called Zainan a pervert, sexually harassed her, said a lot of insulting words, and threatened that if Zainan dared to touch her again, she would call the police. The latter two got out of the car at the same time, and Shibaiki was raped in an alley a few hundred meters away from her home. Mu Zi sighed, and said, afterwards, the prisoner escaped. Shibaiki called the police, and identified Zainan as the perpetrator. Have you ever had contact with this victim? Liao Liqin asked. Mu Zi shook her head, I have called, but I haven't met in person. As the defendant's lawyer, contacting the victim too much is against the rules. She will sue me for harassment. Liao Liqin nodded knowingly, is her testimony reliable? How is the environment of the crime? How is the light? Is there any shelter? There is a street light 20 meters away. Mu Zi was silent for a moment, then said, I think the possibility of being framed by the prisoner is very high. Shibaiki was deeply impressed because of the dispute with Zainan. When a person with a similar build appeared, it's not impossible to admit mistakes. Liao Liqin understood, so, you don't have any strong evidence here, so you want to find a personality witness. Mu Zi smiled lightly, you can't just wait. Liao Liqin was silent. After a while, she said, actually, you don't need to take this case. It might be more appropriate to hand it over to someone else. Mu Zi said, call me after Zainan's accident. Maybe he's just using you. Liao Liqin interrupted her, could it be that you really consider him a friend? To be honest, do you consider Zainan a friend? This question is very rude. Mu Zi pursed her lips, no. The answer sounds cruel, but in Mu Zi's view, the first condition for being a friend is to have a harmonious aura. For example, she and Zhang Xi, Zhang Xinyuan, Zhuang Xia, and Xiaoming and Yu Yang will be very comfortable and unrestrained when getting along. And she and Zainan can only be regarded as close classmates. They are acquaintances, not friends. It's not easy for me to ignore things when they come to me. Mu Zi explained, also, I don't think he is using me. He just chose the most beneficial to him within the scope of the resources he knew. It's human nature, and I can understand that. Mu Zi is well known, and the case she handles, regardless of whether she wins or loses, will get a lot of exposure first. With exposure, there will be attention, and any doubts will be magnified, which is undoubtedly very beneficial to Zainan's case. Therefore, Mu Zi could understand why Zainan asked her to defend him desperately. But I really hate this kind of scheming, Liao Liqin said seriously. As a student of the Judicial Training Institute, You should speak up about the pros and cons instead of playing tricks. Frankly speaking, I don't think he has put his mind on the right path at all. I smiled helplessly. Teacher Liao, not everyone can be as straightforward as you. Blessed to have each other in this life. Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1092. Liao Liqin twitched her lips slightly, and said lightly, maybe, there are too many people beating around the bush nowadays, which is why society has become so complicated. I couldn't help but said, Mr. Liao, in fact, you have such a character that you want to argue right and wrong in everything, you are quite suitable to be a lawyer. I'm too jealous to be a lawyer. Liao Liqin smiled disapprovingly. Isn't it good to be jealous? I didn't understand. Liao Liqin looked up at her, with a rare genuine smile on her face. No, people who are too jealous will be blinded by indignation after seeing the harm suffered by the victim, and cannot do truly effective actions defend, and have no way of knowing the truth. At the end, he said with a self-mockery, so I became a university teacher. I was speechless for a moment. After returning home, I threw away the textbook in her hand and slumped lazily on the sofa, feeling a little depressed. Not because of the case. No matter how difficult the case was, I knew how to fight this lawsuit. It's just that Zainan's accident happened, and no one around him stood up to testify for him, which is a bit embarrassing. Even if Liao Liqin is willing to testify, she doesn't trust Zainan's character. It is precisely because Zainan's situation is so isolated and helpless that I has a feeling that, if he doesn't lend a helping hand, it is really equivalent to pushing people into a desperate situation. Sitting alone in the living room for a while, Chen was nowhere to be seen. Instead he could hear the noise upstairs. I got up and went upstairs, and found that Chen was furnishing the children's room, assembling the newly delivered furniture by himself, very busy. The lamps and carpets in the room were all changed, and the walls were also freshly painted, turning cherry pink. I looked at the plush dolls piled all over the floor, hesitant to speak. The baby is less than a month in the womb, and it is a bit early to prepare these now. Is it a bit early? Chen was too focused. It took him a while to see her, and he smiled brightly. I'm back. I gave a low hum, then glanced at the beautiful lace on the bed, and said hesitantly, what if it's a boy? It must be a girl, Chen said. I looked at him suspiciously. Are you so sure? Chen raised his eyebrows. With a smile in his eyes, he said shamelessly, of course I know what kind of seed I spread. I choked hard. Bastard, she bit her lip and went back to the room angrily. It's boring to be alone in the room, and I don't want to go to the children's room to see Chen's hateful face. It seems that I have no position. I's gaze wandered around the room and landed on Chen's computer. Something else came to mind inexplicably. Since anyone who is a man will collect that kind of film, will Chen also? I was troubled in her heart. Shall we check it out? Invasion of privacy, isn't it good? At the end, he thought to himself, wouldn't it be ridiculous to talk about privacy with someone like Chen? This fellow is tracking, locating, and monitoring cameras up and down the house. From time to time, she looks through her mobile phone and checks her computer. Presumably the word privacy doesn't exist in Chen's dictionary, right? What kind of privacy is talked about between husband and wife? Thinking of this, I became confident. As long as you avoid those confidential documents at work, just watch for suspicious videos, it shouldn't matter. I turned on the computer. Password. Try your own birthday. Opened. Not a second passed in the secret joy in her heart. I looked at the huge amount of resources in the folder, and was frightened silly. Chen returned to his room after finishing his busy work. Arranging the children's room made him happy physically and mentally. Seeing Mu Zi sitting on the side of the bed, he leaned over and kissed him in a good mood. "Why is your face so red?" he asked with a smile. "Go away." Mu Zi turned her head away and murmured, "I'm sweating all over." "You think I'm dirty?" Murongcheng smiled and pinched her face. "I'll clean you up when I'm done washing." Murongcheng took a shower, and when he came back, he found that Mu Zi's face was still flushed. He couldn't help laughing, and leaned over to tease her. What shame did you do?" You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1093. No, Mu Zi turned around not to look at him. The tips of her ears were also red. Murongcheng was really curious. "Do you have a fever?" I touched my forehead, but it didn't feel hot. Murongcheng picked up Mu Zi, hugged him in his arms, and carefully studied her expression. Mu Zi seemed ashamed and annoyed, with a very troubled look. "It's impossible to blush like this for no reason." Murongcheng narrowed his eyes. "Zizi, you won't say it?" "It's nothing." Mu Zi lowered her head, not daring to look into Murongcheng's eyes. Murongcheng was silent. He glanced at his laptop. He suddenly realized something, immediately got up and turned on the computer. Mu Zi lowered her head even lower. There was only the crackling sound of Murongcheng's pressing keys, and then there was no sound. Mu Zi waited for a long time, but there was still no sound, and the room was eerily quiet. She raised her head cautiously and glanced at. Murongcheng stared at her with a livid face. Mu Zi's heart skipped a beat. "I saved it for 10 years." Murongcheng gritted his teeth. Mu Zi was also upset. You are invading my privacy. The law stipulates that without the permission of the person concerned. Are you talking about the law with me? Murongcheng was furious and rushed over. Compensate for my losses first. Mu Zi protected her stomach. I have a baby. Murongcheng's movements froze. His complexion became even uglier. He took a deep breath, stared at Muse's stomach for a while, then picked up the computer, and left the room without saying a word. Muse immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and patted her chest lightly, feeling very complicated, wondering if she did something wrong. After thinking about it again, that guy has saved so many videos of himself pervertedly, eating, sleeping and bathing, even having love between two people. I really can't bear it. Must be deleted. Just as he was thinking, Murongcheng walked into the bedroom again. Changed from the furious anger when he went out just now, his face is full of joy at this moment, the corners of his mouth curled up subtly. He walked over with a half smile, hugged Muse and lay down. Muse was stunned. Murongcheng touched her face, then kissed her forehead. Little thing, don't be so naughty again, you understand. Muse suddenly straightened her back as if waking up from a dream. She was extremely shocked. You have a backup. Murongcheng collapsed on the bed and laughed. Bastard. Pervert. Muse pounced on him, straddled him and pinched his neck. Delete it for me. Delete them all. Murongcheng was still smiling. Take it easy, take it easy. Be careful, baby. Muse hit him hard, but there was nothing he could do. Murongcheng was really afraid that she would get angry and break his body, so he put his arms around her and coaxed her. When you're not around, I'll just point to those things to survive. Besides, he lowered his voice and bit her ear. When you miss me, you can also watch the video. Bastard. Muse was about to die of anger. What did he say? The more you talk, the more idiot you are. After Murongcheng kissed and coaxed for a while, Muse managed to calm down. After the compromise, Muse felt a little melancholy. Her life was still so long. Could it be that she could never turn over in front of Murongcheng? The peaceful days passed quickly. Muzi went to the hospital for a regular pregnancy test, and then, Zainan's court hearing arrived as scheduled. This case is very important to Zainan, but it is not worth mentioning to the media. Compared with those headless female corpse cases and serial murder cases, there are only two news points about Zainan's case. One is the identity of the student of Zainan Judicial Training Institute, the other is the identity of the defense lawyer Muzi. Hua media likes to report on the case that the president's daughter is in charge of, as if paying attention to the growth of a princess. On the day of the trial, there were indeed crowds outside the courtroom, and many reporters came in and out. Strange to say, in general sexual assault cases, in order to protect the victims, the courts will conduct closed trials. But this time, for some unknown reason, the victim voluntarily asked for a public hearing. Although a mosaic would be made on the face afterwards, the hidden danger of identity exposure still exists. It's weird. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1094. The jury sat down one by one, and the surrounding gradually became quiet. Muzi looked around the court, and finally saw the victim, Shibiki, next to the prosecutor. The appearance is not particularly outstanding, but the figure is beautiful. It looks like she has learned to dance, which adds a lot to her appearance. Sitting there quietly is also very pleasing to the eye. Muzi asked Zainan beside her in a low voice, "Do you know that she is a drama actress?" Zainan was stunned for a moment, and then realized, "Do you think she is acting on purpose?" "I don't know," Muzi sighed. "I don't like to speculate about others in such a dark way. However, it is doubtful to deliberately ask for a public trial to increase exposure for myself, isn't it?" Zainan came to a sudden. The singer who had the accident last time was. No one knew her before, but after the accident, everyone began to care about how the singer survived the psychological trauma. Once they found out that she had released a new work, they would praise her and be strong and inspirational. All kinds of propaganda. That being said, it seems reasonable. Could it be that this case is actually a means of using others to hype for oneself? Muzi frowned. At this time, the judge struck the gavel and announced the beginning of the trial. The prosecution's first witness was a police officer who arrested Zainan at that time. We rushed to the scene immediately after receiving the report, and searched the vicinity according to the characteristics described by the victim. Then, we saw the defendant who matched the characteristics and found the victim's underwear in the defendant's hand, so we made an emergency arrest. After the arrest, did the victim correctly identify the accused? The prosecutor asked. Yes, the officer nodded. The victim immediately identified the defendant. Muzi stood up and asked, "What was my client doing when you arrested him?" He was probably on a street about 200 meters away from the scene of the crime. At that time, he was sitting alone on the side of the road, holding the pair of underwear in his hand. The policeman replied. "May I ask what my client's expression was when he saw you appear?" Muzi asked. The police officer hesitated for a while, then frowned and said, "It should be a surprise." "Did he run away when he saw you?" Muzi asked again. The policeman shook his head. "No, he didn't run away." Muzi nodded thoughtfully, and asked, "Based on your experience, is it normal for a person who has just committed a crime not to run away when he sees the police?" "Oh, maybe he's timid and scared out of his wits," the police officer shrugged. Muzi smiled. "Do you think a criminal who dares to rape women on the street would be timid?" The police officer looked embarrassed and replied, "I don't know." "You don't know?" Muzi pursed her lips. "Where's that pair of underwear?" "When he saw you, did he try to hide it?" "No." "Did he say anything when you arrested him?" He was panicked and asked us what happened." "Thank you." Muzi sat down. "I'm done asking." Zainan was very nervous, and asked her in a low voice, "Do you need teacher Liao to testify in court now?" No rush Musei reassured, personality witnesses can only play a role when the other party questions your character. The victim hasn't appeared in court yet, so wait. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard that the prosecutor over there called Shibiki to testify in court. Prosecutors routinely asked the victim to give a brief account of the incident to ensure that the jury and the judge were clear about the entire case. Shibiki was sexually harassed while riding the subway. She had a fierce dispute with the other party. On the way home, she was besieged by the other party in an alley and violently raped. The other party fled afterwards. Shibiki immediately called the police on her mobile phone. After the police arrived, they immediately searched the vicinity, arrested the suspect Zainan, and found physical evidence. The facts of the case are clear and there are almost no flaws.